do not harm the earth, or the sea, or the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our God. Before the trumpets, before the fury, there is mercy. 144,000 sealed, not consumed, commissioned. 12,000 from every tribe, set apart for the final harvest, and beyond them, a multitude no man could number, a sea of redeemed souls, cleansed by the blood of the Lamb, standing before the throne. The wrath is delayed, the winds are held, because even in judgment, God remembers mercy. The Trumpet One, Episode 24, Revelation 7, the Interlude, the 144,000 sealed servants. Chapter 8, Revelation 7, Interlude, the 144,000 sealed servants. Part 1, God's pause before the storm, before the trumpet judgments thunder across the earth with unstoppable fury. Revelation 7 gives us a breathtaking pause in the action. It is a moment of divine intermission, a calm before the storm so intense that Jesus himself said, if those days weren't shortened, no flesh would survive. Matthew 24:22. This chapter is not a break in the story, it's a revelation within the revelation. A strategic pause, a sovereign sealing. As the earth reels from the terror of the first 7 seals, deception, war, famine, death, martyrdom, cosmic cataclysm, and a deafening silence in heaven, Revelation 7 zooms in on God's supernatural intervention. While the world trembles, heaven holds its breath. Angels are dispatched not to destroy, but to delay, not to strike, but to seal. In this holy pause, we witness God marking 144,000 from the 12 tribes of Israel, an act of divine preservation and prophetic fulfillment. While the judgments of the tribulation roar on the horizon, these individuals are sealed with the protection and purpose of God. Revelation 7 reminds us that even in wrath, God remembers mercy. In the chaos of global collapse, God is not absent. He is orchestrating. He is claiming his own, even as the earth groans beneath judgment. This chapter stands as both a warning and a comfort. Judgment is coming, but so is deliverance. The sealed are not spared from the storm, but they are secured in it. Their presence is a bold declaration that God never loses track of his promises, his people, or his purpose, even in the darkest hour of human history. Jesus' teachings and Revelation 6-7 parallels. In Matthew 24, Jesus gives his disciples a prophetic overview of the end times. He outlines the signs of his coming and the end of the age. Later, in Revelation 6 and 7, we see these same events begin to unfold as the Lamb opens the 7 seals. Each seal corresponds closely with what Jesus had already taught, revealing that he, now in heaven, is executing the very prophecy he once delivered on earth. First seal judgment, false Christs. Matthew 24:5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Revelation 6:2. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. The rider on the white horse symbolizes the Antichrist, the ultimate false Messiah, deceiving the world under the guise of peace. Second seal judgment, wars and rumors of wars. Matthew 24:6-7. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Revelation 6:4. And there went out another horse that was red, to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. The red horse signifies global conflict and bloodshed, exactly as Jesus described. Third seal judgment, famine. Matthew 24:7. And there shall be famines, Revelation 6:5-6. A black horse, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. The black horse represents economic collapse and worldwide famine, mirroring Jesus' warning. Fourth seal judgment, pestilences and death. Matthew 24:7. And pestilences. Revelation 6:8. A pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. The pale green horse, from the Greek chloros, signals widespread death through plagues, famine, and violence. Fifth seal judgment, persecution, and martyrdom. Matthew 24:9-10. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations. Revelation 6:9-11. I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God. Jesus foretold that his followers would face intense persecution, and the fifth seal reveals the martyrs crying out for justice. Sixth seal judgment, natural disasters and cosmic signs. Matthew 24:7-29. Earthquakes in diverse places. The sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. Revelation 6:12-14. A great earthquake, and the sun became black, and the moon became as blood. The stars of heaven fell. Earthquakes and celestial disturbances follow as the sixth seal is opened, just as Jesus predicted. 7. Interlude, worldwide preaching of the gospel. Matthew 24:14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations. Revelation 7:1-4. Sealed 140 and 4,000. Following the sixth seal, an interlude in chapter 7 reveals that 144,000 Jewish servants are sealed. Their mission is to evangelize the earth during the tribulation, fulfilling Jesus' declaration that the gospel would be preached to all nations. These parallels confirm that Jesus not only prophesied these end-time events, he brings them to pass. What he declared in Matthew 24, he initiates in Revelation 6 and 7. This prophetic alignment strengthens our understanding of the sequence and significance of end-time events, providing a clear divine timeline from Jesus' mouth to the final judgment. The revelation of Jesus Christ reveals 7:1. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. Revelation 7:1 opens a moment of divine suspension, what many scholars refer to as a pause in judgment. The phrase "after these things" signals a shift in scene, transitioning from the cataclysmic events of Revelation 6 and 8:1-6 to a heavenly perspective of preservation and mercy. The 4 angels represent divine agents of control and authority. Their position on the 4 corners of the earth is a figurative way of describing the totality of the earth, the north, south, east, and west. This isn't a statement of geography, but a symbolic representation of global reach. The 4 winds often symbolize judgment and chaos in biblical prophecy. Jeremiah 49:36, Daniel 7:2. Here, they are restrained, indicating that God is temporarily holding back the coming destruction. The command to hold back the wind on the earth, the sea, and the trees emphasizes total stillness, a supernatural pause in the natural order. Wind often brings movement, life, and change. To stop the wind is to halt the forward motion of judgment. It's a moment of divine suspense, where even nature holds its breath. This verse sets the stage for the sealing of the 144,000, God's servants who must be marked before the next wave of judgments begins. It highlights God's mercy in the midst of wrath. Before unleashing further devastation, God ensures the protection of those he has called. The message is clear. Even during the tribulation, God remains sovereign over creation and committed to preserving his remnant. Old Testament foreshadows Revelation. And upon Elam, Khuzestan province in modern Iran, will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them toward all those winds. And there shall be no nation where the outcasts of Elam shall not come. Jeremiah 49:36. This verse, like Revelation 7:1, refers to four winds coming from the four directions of the earth, symbolizing divine judgment or dispersion. The winds in Jeremiah represent God's instrument of scattering and upheaval, much like how the winds in Revelation symbolize the impending judgments being held back temporarily by the four angels. The revelation of Jesus Christ reveals 7:2. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea. In this verse, John witnesses a fifth angel rising from the east, symbolically significant as the direction of light, hope, and divine intervention. Biblically, the east is often associated with the glory of God and his coming, Ezekiel 43:2, as well as the direction from which Christ will return, Matthew 24:27. This angel bears the seal of the living God, a mark of divine ownership and protection. Just as ancient kings used seals to signify authority, authenticity, and protection, so too does this seal mark those who belong to God. This seal is about to be placed on the foreheads of the 144,000 servants, Revelation 7:3, symbolizing spiritual preservation amid earthly judgment. Importantly, the angel calls out to the four angels from Revelation 7:1, who are ready to unleash devastating judgments on the earth and sea. But before the destruction begins, they are commanded to pause. This dramatic interlude underscores God's mercy. He delays judgment to protect his faithful servants. This verse illustrated a powerful truth. Even in the midst of divine wrath, God never forgets his remnant. Before judgment is poured out, he marks his own for protection and preservation. Old Testament foreshadows Revelation. And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Ezekiel 9:4. In this passage, God commands an angelic figure to go through Jerusalem and mark the foreheads of those who mourn over the nation's sins. Those marked are spared from the coming judgment that the other angels will execute. This act of marking the faithful for protection mirrors the sealing of the 144,000 in Revelation 7:2-3. Both scenes show a divine pause before judgment, during which God's faithful are sealed, marked, and protected, a demonstration of mercy amid wrath. The consistency between these two scriptures shows that God's pattern of sealing his people before judgment is a theme carried from the Old Testament into the revelation of Jesus Christ. The revelation of Jesus Christ reveals 7:3, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads. This verse marks a divine pause in the unfolding judgments of the tribulation. Before the next wave of catastrophic destruction is allowed to proceed, an angel issues a command to hold back judgment until a specific group of people, the servants of God, are sealed on their foreheads. The seal is symbolic of ownership, protection, and divine commissioning. In ancient times, kings and rulers used seals to authenticate authority and secure protection over people or property. In this context, God places his seal on 144,000 Jewish believers, Revelation 7:4-8, setting them apart during the tribulation. These are not apostles, prophets, pastors, or teachers, but evangelists, God's specially chosen witnesses, who will boldly proclaim the gospel in the midst of escalating chaos and wrath. Their sealing ensures their divine protection, not just from physical harm, but also from spiritual deception. They are preserved by God to evangelize the lost and usher in a great harvest of souls, even as judgment falls around them. This sealing also echoes Ezekiel 9:4-6, where God's faithful are marked before judgment falls on Jerusalem. Revelation 7:3 reveals God's mercy even amid wrath. Before destruction continues, He ensures that His mission and His messengers are in place, and His purposes of redemption are still active during the darkest hour of human history. Old Testament foreshadows Revelation, and He said, "It is a light thing that you should be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the preserved ones of Israel. I will also give you for a light to the Gentiles, that you may be my salvation unto the end of the earth." Isaiah 49:6. Revelation 7:3 describes 144,000 sealed servants of God, Jewish evangelists who will proclaim the gospel during the tribulation. This aligns with Isaiah 49:6, where God prophetically declares that His chosen ones, Israel, will be a light to the Gentiles, nations, and bring salvation to the ends of the earth. While Isaiah's prophecy ultimately points to the Messiah, it also reflects God's broader purpose for Israel as a witnessing nation, which is partially fulfilled through the 144,000 in Revelation 7. These sealed servants carry the gospel globally at a time of great judgment, just as Isaiah foretold a mission that would reach beyond Israel to the nations. The revelation of Jesus Christ reveals 7:4. "And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel." In this verse, John hears the angel announcing the sealing of the 144,000, a divine act of preservation and commissioning by God in the midst of the tribulation. These 144,000 individuals are clearly identified as Jewish believers, with 12,000 sealed from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. This is a direct and literal reference, not symbolic, and ties into the broader biblical theme of God's faithfulness to Israel and His prophetic promises concerning their future. The context shows that after the church age concludes, when the church is no longer mentioned from Revelation 4-19, the narrative shifts entirely to Israel. Everything becomes unmistakably Jewish. The Lamb, the Lion of Judah, the tabernacle, the temple in heaven, and now the 144,000 sealed Jewish servants. The tribulation is also known as the time of Jacob's trouble, Jeremiah 37, signaling that God's redemptive focus has returned to His covenant people, Israel. These 144,000 are not random believers. They are divinely chosen, sealed, and protected for a specific purpose during the most devastating time in human history. Their mission is evangelistic. In Revelation 14, we discover more about their characteristics. They are purchased by the blood of the Lamb, pure and undefiled, prepared and sealed, protected from harm, persistent in following the Lamb, and bold preachers of the gospel. These young Jewish men are set apart by God to bring in a great harvest of souls, millions from every nation, tribe, and language. Their sealing ensures their survival through the chaos of the trumpet judgments, which will soon begin. This act of sealing is not merely symbolic. It is a divine guarantee of protection and commissioning. God is not finished with Israel. These sealed servants prove that His plan includes a remnant that will boldly proclaim salvation in the darkest days. In a world ruled by the Antichrist, when martyrdom is rampant and deception abounds, These 144,000 will shine as God's witnesses, proclaiming the eternal gospel and drawing multitudes to Christ. In Revelation 7:9, we see the fruit of their ministry, a multitude no one could number from every nation standing before the throne and the Lamb. This reminds us that even amid wrath, God's mercy and desire for salvation remain. Revelation 7:4 is not just a record of numbers, it's a declaration of God's enduring promise to Israel and his unstoppable mission to redeem. Old Testament foreshadows Revelation. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants, and upon the handmaids in those days, will I pour out my Spirit. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord has said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. Joel 2:28-32. Joel 2:28-32 speaks of a divinely chosen remnant who will be preserved and empowered in the end times. Like the 144,000 in Revelation 7, this remnant is chosen and protected by God in the midst of coming judgment. The prophetic empowerment of this group echoes the evangelistic calling of the 144,000. The revelation of Jesus Christ reveals 7:5. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. This verse begins the detailed listing of the 12 tribes of Israel, each contributing 12,000 individuals to make up the 144,000 who are sealed by God. These sealed individuals are ethnic Jews, descendants of Jacob, chosen and marked by God for a unique purpose during the tribulation. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. Interestingly, Judah is listed first, though Reuben was Jacob's firstborn son. This is no accident. Judah receives the preeminence because Jesus Christ, the Messiah, is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Revelation 5:5. Judah's ascendancy in the list emphasizes the messianic lineage and the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy. Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Reuben, the actual firstborn son of Jacob, comes next. He lost his place of prominence due to sin, Genesis 35:22, which is why Judah often takes the lead in tribal listings post-Exodus. Yet Reuben is not forgotten. He is still included in the sealing. God's grace restores even those with a blemished past. Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. Gad was one of the sons of Leah's maid, Zilpah, Genesis 39-11. Though not born from Jacob's wife, Gad is still fully considered part of the covenantal tribes. The inclusion of Gad affirms that God's promises extend to all legitimate tribal descendants, regardless of birth order or maternal origin. Old Testament foreshadows revelation of Judah, Nahshon, the son of Amminadab; of Reuben, Elizur, the son of Shedeur; of Gad, Eliasaph, the son of Duel. Numbers 1:7, 1:5, 1:11, respectively. This passage records the census of the 12 tribes of Israel during the wilderness journey. Each tribe is named specifically, and leaders are appointed from among them. This census was for military organization and preparation, while Revelation 7 presents a spiritual sealing for divine protection and witness during the tribulation. However, the structure and tribal order reflect continuity between the Old Testament people of God and God's prophetic purposes in the New Testament. The revelation of Jesus Christ reveals 7:6. Of the tribe of Aser were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Nephthalim were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000. This verse continues the list of the 144,000 individuals, 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, whom God seals for divine protection and service during the tribulation. These three tribes, Asher, Aser, Naphtali, Nephthalim, and Manasseh, Manassas, each contribute 12,000 faithful, set apart for a unique purpose in the unfolding of God's redemptive plan. Of the tribe of Aser were sealed 12,000. Asher was Jacob's 8th son, born to Zilpah, Leah's maidservant, Genesis 30:12-13. His name means happy or blessed. Asher's inheritance was in the fertile northern part of Israel along the Mediterranean coast. Symbolically, Asher represents abundance and provision, qualities that may mirror the spiritual nourishment these sealed believers bring during a time of global famine, despair, and natural terrors. Of the tribe of Nephthalim were sealed 12,000. Naphtali was the 6th son of Jacob and the 2nd of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, Genesis 37-8. His name means wrestling, reflecting Rachel's struggle. Naphtali's tribe settled in the northern region of Galilee, an area later graced by Jesus' early ministry, Matthew 4:13-16. Naphtali often symbolizes spiritual tenacity and grace under pressure, fitting for a remnant who must endure tribulation yet remain faithful. Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000. Manasseh was the firstborn son of Joseph, adopted by Jacob as his own, Genesis 48:5. His name means causing to forget, referring to Joseph's forgetfulness of past suffering. Manasseh received territory on both sides of the Jordan River, becoming a half-tribe with his brother Ephraim. Interestingly, Manasseh is listed in place of Dan in Revelation 7, a substitution that has drawn much speculation. For example, Dan's association with idolatry in Judges 18:30. Manasseh may represent those who have overcome past pain and idolatry to serve God faithfully. Old Testament foreshadows Revelation, and of Asher he said, "Let Asher be blessed with children, let him be acceptable to his brethren, and let him dip his foot in oil." And of Naphtali he said, "O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of the Lord." Though this next verse focuses on Joseph as a whole, it includes Manasseh. They are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. Deuteronomy 33:24, 33:23, 33:17, respectively. These verses were part of Moses' blessing of the tribes. These verses also show that God had long established prophetic purposes and blessings for these tribes, and Revelation 7 reveals the end-time fulfillment of those promises by sealing 12,000 faithful from each tribe. The revelation of Jesus Christ reveals 7:7. Of the tribe of Simeon were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000. This verse continues the divine roll call of the 144,000 Jewish evangelists, 12,000 sealed from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. The inclusion of Simeon, Levi, and Issachar here is both deeply significant and prophetically rich, especially when compared to earlier tribal listings in the Old Testament. Of the tribe of Simeon were sealed 12,000. The tribe of Simeon had historically diminished in influence and population, partially due to Jacob's rebuke of Simeon and Levi in Genesis 49:5-7 for their violence at Shechem. By the time of the kingdom division, Simeon had been largely absorbed into the territory of Judah. Yet here in Revelation, we see a full restoration, with 12,000 sealed from Simeon. This signifies that God never forgets a promise. Even tribes once scattered are sovereignly remembered in his redemptive plan. Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000. The inclusion of Levi is especially noteworthy. The tribe of Levi was originally set apart for priestly service and did not receive a territorial inheritance in the land of Israel. Numbers 18:20-24, Deuteronomy 10:9. In earlier tribal enumerations, Levi is often omitted to maintain the number 12 when Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, are counted as separate tribes. Yet here, Levi is counted, indicating that in this time of divine sealing, God is emphasizing spiritual calling over territorial inheritance. Levi's return to the list may also underscore a priestly role these 144,000 play as spiritual intercessors during the tribulation. Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000. Issachar, the ninth son of Jacob and Leah, was described in Genesis 49:14 as a strong donkey lying between burdens, symbolic of a tribe willing to serve in practical ways. In Judges 5:15, Issachar is seen as faithfully joining Deborah and Barak in battle. Their presence in Revelation 7 reaffirms their continued role in supporting God's purposes, even in the intense spiritual warfare of the end times. Old Testament foreshadows Revelation. Take you, Levi, the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel, after their families, by the house of their fathers. Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their inhabitations. Issachar is a strong donkey, couching down between two burdens. Numbers 1-2, Genesis 49:5, Genesis 49:14, respectively. While Levi is excluded from the military census in Numbers 1, as they were set apart for priestly duties, Simeon and Issachar are included. This tribal listing is significant for understanding Israel's foundational structure, and the comparison with Revelation 7 shows how God rearranges and reclaims the tribes for his end-time purposes. The revelation of Jesus Christ reveals 7:8. Of the tribe of Zabulon were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. This verse concludes the listing of the 144,000 sealed servants of God, 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. As with the previous verses, each of these tribes represents a remnant of Israel set apart by God for a special purpose during the tribulation. The inclusion of these final three tribes, Zabulon, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin, continues to reflect God's faithfulness to his covenant with the descendants of Jacob. Of the tribe of Zabulon were sealed 12,000. Zebulun was the 10th son of Jacob and the 6th born to Leah, Genesis 30:20. His tribe was located by the sea and known for commerce and ships, Genesis 49:13. Though not prominent in the Old Testament narrative, Zebulun's inclusion here shows that no tribe is forgotten in God's redemptive plan. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. Interestingly, Joseph is named here instead of his sons Ephraim and Manasseh. This is significant because in many tribal lists, Joseph's sons replace him to maintain the number 12 when Levi is omitted. In Revelation 7, Manasseh is mentioned, 7:6, but Ephraim is omitted, possibly due to idolatry associated with Ephraim in the Old Testament, Hosea 4:17. Naming Joseph instead may serve as a collective honor to his legacy and spiritual faithfulness. Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. The youngest son of Jacob and the only son born in the Promised Land, Genesis 35:18, Benjamin was deeply beloved. His tribe was known for its fierce warriors, Judges 20:16, and was the tribe of Israel's first king, Saul, 1 Samuel 9:1-2. The Apostle Paul was also from the tribe of Benjamin, Romans 11:1, Philippians 3:4. Their inclusion here reflects mercy and restoration, especially considering their turbulent Old Testament history. Revelation 7:5-8 presents a remarkable listing of 12 tribes from which 144,000 Jewish men are sealed, 12,000 from each tribe, demonstrating God's unwavering faithfulness to Israel. Though the church has been raptured at this point, as many scholars believe, God's redemptive plan for his chosen people continues. This sealing signifies divine ownership, protection, and purpose, setting these men apart as fearless evangelists during the tribulation. Despite centuries of dispersion and lost genealogies, God knows precisely who belongs to each tribe, affirming his sovereign control. The unique tribal list, which includes Levi and Joseph but omits Dan and Ephraim, highlights that God's selection is not merely based on genealogy, but on spiritual calling. Each tribe, regardless of past prominence or failure, is honored in this end times mission, emphasizing that no obedience is forgotten, no heritage is lost, and no promise remains unfulfilled in God's ultimate plan of restoration and salvation. Old Testament foreshadows, Revelation, rejoice, Zebulun, in your going out. Blessed of the Lord be his, Joseph land. The beloved of the Lord shall dwell in safety by him, Benjamin. Deuteronomy 33:18, 33:13-17, 33:12, respectively. These blessings by Moses reflect God's covenantal faithfulness and prophetic promises to each tribe, which are reactivated and emphasized in Revelation 7 as he seals these tribes for a special purpose during the tribulation. The revelation of Jesus Christ reveals 7:9. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. This verse reveals one of the most awe-inspiring scenes in the book of Revelation, a great multitude standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes and waving palm branches. John emphasizes that this multitude is so vast that no man could number them, and they come from all nations and kindreds and people and tongues. This clearly indicates a global harvest of souls during the 7-year tribulation, brought about through the fearless ministry of the 144,000 sealed Jewish evangelists described in the preceding verses. Though the church has been raptured at this point, God's work of salvation is far from finished. The 144,000 serve as anointed messengers, likely penetrating hard-to-reach regions like the Middle East, Asia, and areas where Christian evangelism has been restricted or persecuted. As conditions on earth grow desperate and judgments intensify, hearts that were once closed will open to the truth of the gospel. Many of these people, Gentiles and others who never heard or accepted the message during the church age, will respond to the call of salvation. The white robes represent the righteousness of Christ granted to these believers, and the palm branches are symbols of victory, worship, and celebration. Even amid tribulation, redemption continues. These souls have been spiritually rescued out of the darkest hour in human history. However, as later verses confirm, most of them will suffer martyrdom for their faith. This scene stands as a powerful reminder that God's grace reaches even into the most chaotic and terrifying times. The gospel will go forth, and the result will be a global, uncountable multitude who surrender to the Lamb, even at the cost of their lives. Old Testament foreshadows Revelation. They shall not hunger nor thirst, neither shall the heat nor sun smite them. For he that has mercy on them shall lead them, even by the springs of water shall he guide them. And I will make all my mountains a way, and my highways shall be exalted. Behold, these shall come from far, and lo, these from the north and from the west, and these from the land of Sinim. Isaiah 49:10-12. Isaiah 49:10-12 is not just a parallel, it is a prophetic foreshadowing of what is fulfilled in Revelation 7:9-17. Both passages speak of global inclusion of the redeemed, divine protection and comfort, a shepherding Messiah guiding his people. A return or gathering from every direction. This passage reveals God's redemptive plan reaching beyond Israel to embrace both Jew and Gentile, spanning time, space, and covenant. Isaiah's prophetic vision finds its ultimate fulfillment in Revelation 7:9, where the global worship of the Lamb reflects the promised salvation extending to all nations, tribes, peoples, and tongues. Irene and I sat at a large glass coffee table, our Bibles and notes spread out between us. A soft lamp glowed overhead as evening set in outside the window. Irene leaned forward, her brow furrowed. "Anne, I've been going over the sequence again. Daniel's 70th week, the seals, the trumpets, and I keep running into the same issue." I looked up. "What's troubling you?" Irene exhaled slowly. "It's the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. We know that's when the Antichrist rises to power. But if God is already releasing the seal and trumpet judgments that seem to reorder the earth, pull the continents back together, and wipe out 1/3 of the land, sea, drinking water, and even darken 1/3 of the sun, moon, and stars, how does the Antichrist have time to deceive the world, consolidate control, and establish a global empire?" I smiled softly, sensing Irene's heart for truth. That's a really important observation. And you're right, it does look like there's a tension between what God is doing to judge and restore and what Satan is doing to manipulate and destroy. But remember, both are happening under God's sovereign timing. Irene nodded. "So you're saying they don't cancel each other out?" I shook my head. Not at all. In fact, I think they work in tandem, though in very different ways. Let's step back and walk through the timeline. I opened my Bible to Daniel 9 and then flipped to Revelation. We know Daniel's 70th week is 7 years, right? It's split into 2 halves, each 3.5 years. The first half is when the Antichrist rises to power, and the second half, what Jesus called the Great Tribulation, is when the full wrath and chaos unfold. Irene tapped her pen against her notebook. "And the midpoint is the abomination of desolation?" "Exactly." I pointed to Revelation 13. That's when the Antichrist sets himself up in the rebuilt third temple, claiming to be God. That's when the masks come off. That's also when Satan is cast down to earth and, I believe, possesses or fully empowers both the Antichrist and the false prophet. Irene tilted her head. "So, are you saying the false prophet doesn't show up until then?" "Right." I nodded. The false prophet, this second beast who performs signs and enforces worship, rises in Revelation 13 after the first beast is fully revealed. His job is to promote the Antichrist and force people to worship him. But before that, the Antichrist's power is more political than supernatural. He comes with peace, flattery, false unity. He doesn't need fire from heaven yet, just promises and persuasion. Irene leaned back in her chair, thinking. So, during the first half, God is already judging the earth. Seals are broken, the trumpet blasts begin, but the Antichrist is still playing the part of a savior? Yes, and that's the tension you're feeling. My voice softened. God is shaking the world through war, famine, death, and environmental upheaval. It's judgment, yes, but like the plagues of Egypt, it carries a redemptive thread. He's cleansing and reordering the earth. At the same time, Satan is positioning his pieces, biding his time, waiting for the world to grow desperate enough to embrace his deception. Irene glanced down at her notes. That explains the restoration theme. The landmass reforming, bitter waters, 1/3 of the light gone. It's like God is dismantling man's systems while purifying the natural world. Exactly, I said. The trumpet judgments do 2 things. They warn and they cleanse. They clear the way for Christ's kingdom, but first, they set the stage for a false king to rise. Briefly. Irene was quiet for a moment, So the Antichrist doesn't cause the destruction, he capitalizes on it. He steps into the chaos God allows, pretending to be the one who can fix it. I smiled. Exactly. He comes as a counterfeit Christ. The true king brings peace through righteousness. The Antichrist offers peace through deception, only to shatter it halfway through. Irene jotted down 3 words: false peace, real judgment, hidden chaos. And the 144,000, she asked? They're sealed before the trumpet judgments begin, right? I nodded. Yes, right between the 6th and 7th seals. God marks them to spread the gospel before judgment intensifies. They're his frontline witnesses. As the earth trembles and the skies darken, they shine like lights, offering hope in the midst of chaos. Irene leaned forward, her voice softer. So even in wrath, he remembers mercy. I whispered, always. They are sealed, chosen, marked not for escape, but for mission. This is the pause between the storms, the stillness between seals. But it is not the end. It is the calm before the 7th seal breaks. In mercy, God has sealed a remnant. In grace, he has welcomed a multitude. But the next sound will be silence. Next time, the 7th seal opens, and heaven will fall silent. The Trumpet One, Episode 25, Revelation 7, the Interlude, Part 2 of 2, The Great Multitude and the Final Silence. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so others can join this journey too. Thank you for letting me share this with you. If you'd like a copy of my books for yourself or loved ones, they are available on Amazon. Until next time, take care and be blessed.